So for example, Kapshenga, when I see you and your group speaking, because you do have a group, speaking about hiking, and I don't know how many kilometers you've walked today and so on, and take that conversation and let's talk about another conversation that if it was a political conversation that's being had, it's going to be had with you and this particular group of people who most likely think the same way that you think. And this sort of shuts out the perspectives of other people who have an opinion about it, but they can't get into this bracket. You know, the rest of us who can't hike, who can't climb mountains, cannot fit into that conversation. Who has the microphone so that they can, okay, there's a gentleman at the back, and I'll take one late.
I can see the Netflix chocolate eating crowd feeling bad. That
Please, I leave it to you to make a decision so that it's not on me. Robert, you can speak as he takes the mic. Just hold on.
Maybe the thing about this technology and all this stuff aside, and I'm going to put someone on the spot in the audience. I think I've not met her before, but we've interacted. I think there's somebody called Agatha. I think Agatha is here. Agatha.
Agatha Twaire.
Yes.
You've not met Agatha before?
No, but we've spoken a lot on social media.
You see, this is it.
Yeah, this is my echo chamber. But the one thing which you're challenging me about is what Agatha, in my view, represents. A very simple but very difficult human attribute called courage. And if anybody in your generation represents courage in journalism today, it is Agatha. And what you're asking me is, do we have the courage to let other people into our conversations? People who disagree with us, and still allow them to say what they have to say, or those of us in supposedly prominent positions, can we diversify away from our... Agatha doesn't have to do what she does. No, it's really just a question. It will come back, I keep repeating this, it will come back to you as a human being and how you want to put the technology to use.
All right. Thank you very much, Robert. And Agatha, I mean, I don't know if you've updated the last Twitter post yesterday, the expose you were doing, but me and the rest of the others that have been following will be waiting. There's somebody with a microphone, yes?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Zachary Mjisha. I'm the head of sales and marketing at Pulse Africa in Uganda. One of the things that Pano was mentioning about was how we are using different technologies and how these technologies are doing some good, but there could be some elements of bad that come with them. A week ago, I was listening to an episode of The Intelligence by The Economist, and they were narrating how they're using Wi-Fi signals to detect if elderly people are falling down, if they're getting shocks, monitoring their health. But again, the same technology could be used as to spy on anyone, in anyone's home, because governments can do that. It's happening in Russia. It's been, they're currently doing tests in the US. So my question to the panel is, we know some of these technologies do carry some hidden elements that come with them, but again, they are still useful to us. Like we just that example of how wireless signals can be used to save lives, can be again used to spy on you and what you do on in your daily lives. So on that question of governance is, then how do we make these technologies people-centered to make sure that people are getting service through these technologies rather than them being elements for other hidden organizations to utilize our data? How can we use governance to make sure that we are getting the best out of these technologies?
All right, Anthony, yes, take that question.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's a very important question. Beyond the Wi-Fi, we have the AI as well. If you have used SafeBorder, if you have used Uber, before you get your driver or your rider to come to pick you up where you're at, you have to put in your location. And when you arrive at your destination, these services on a daily basis, it's so easy to have a track of their movements. It's so easy to know their home. It's so easy to have a point. So indeed, there is a very big problem in terms of issues of data, and it's nice that we have someone from that Data Protection Office here. We have that law now, the Personal Data Protection and Privacy Act. The question is enforcement, where people who are trying to come up with innovations are curtailed and harassed and made to go through very many loops and complications. So it is an important policy conversation to have, and we have fairly progressive laws, but of course the way it is, technology will always leave the law behind. That's how it is. But we are playing catch up. We have that law. We can do better, especially on issues of implementation, and also just making sure that our members of parliament can keep track with the progression in technology, while making sure that they don't provide for legal frameworks that instead curtail rather than enable and provide a conducive regulatory environment.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So even though we started late, side-eyeing all the people who made us start late, the latecomers plus other people, we're going to have to end the meeting now because I'm told the next sessions have to get started as well. So please, let's put our hands together for our panel. Alex. So just to remind you who the panel was before you put your hands together for them. Alex, who is a data analyst and journalist. Robert, who is a curator and host, 360 Mentor. Christine, who is a curator, Baraza Media Lab. And Anthony, who is the director, chapter for Uganda. Once again, let's give them a hand clap. And you can find them and pose your questions to them before they run out.
You'll find me on social media.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much for the panelists that have been up here. Thank you so much, Josephine, for moderating that wonderful and amazing session. So right now we have 2 sessions going to be taking place at the same time. Right here is going to be an expert roundtable, and in the next room, in the training room, you'll be guided, is going to be a workshop. Yes, so I'm just going to tell you about the workshop as you transition so that you're able to know what you're going for. Also, only if you've been registered to actually take part in the workshop. That's the only time you get to go to the training room, yeah? So we have in the workshop with the Aga Khan University Graduate School of Media and Communication. So that will be facilitated by Benson. He is a community manager at the Media Innovation Center, Aga Khan University. So if you're going to have that session, please make your way, but you only have to be registered, yeah? So you can be able to attend that session, a maximum of 30 people. And those who are not registered, there's other sessions that are going to be taking place during the day. There's another workshop later on in the afternoon. So there's another workshop happening in the afternoon and also another one happening in the evening. But if you're going to stay here, there's an expert roundtable that is going to be about social media, the promise of the digital economy, and the future of work. This is in cooperation with policy.org, and the moderator is going to be Bonita Nyamwire. She's a researcher at policy.org, so if you want to stay for that session, you will be in here. I'll just repeat the sessions one more time so that we're able to transition, yeah? The session in the training room, it's a workshop. It's going to be about social media, generative AI, and the future of storytelling. social media, generative AI, and the future of storytelling. So even if you've not registered, you can actually attend the session. I think that there would be a session that is going to be in here. They're happening at the same time. Is social media, the promise of the digital economy, and the future of work. Social media, the promise of the digital economy, and
One. Next we have Workshop 1 and Expert Roundtable 1. Workshop 1 is Social Media, Generative AI and the Future of Storytelling, led by Aga Khan University Graduate School of Media and Communication. This will take place in the training room. Expert Roundtable 1 is Social Media, the Promise of the Digital Economy and the Future of Work, led by Policy.
If you're still looking for where to go, just a bit of emphasis. In this room, in this very room, is going to be Policy, policy.org, and the conversation is going to be around social media, the promise of the digital economy, and the future of work. So if you want to talk about digital economy, you're going to stay in here. If you want to talk about generative AI and social media, you're going to go to the next room. That session is facilitated by Benson.
Mic check, mic check. Let's get moving. For the discussion, the guys up there, please feel free to.
Recording stop.
Roland, good to see you, Roland. Please come over here. Roland, especially you as an expert, we want you in the inner circle. That side, if you're that side, you're sort of a follower. That's good. No, people are gonna move. People are moving. Yes.
Hi everyone, it's a round table, so let's try to move in and be round. Get to, yeah, so let's move into the round table because we are all experts, so we are the experts that are going to be discussing this topic. Bonita, if you could join me at the front, that would be great. Where are my digital nomads? As far as on social media, yes, let's move in. I can see a few familiar faces, so. Oh, guys, there are actually spaces here as well, so do not be afraid. If you feel like you're an expert and that's your thing, you can actually come here. You'll be the first person I'll actually handle the mic. Yes, I see barefoot low. You can actually come here. Do not stay in the back. Yes. Thank you very much. And I see Abbas has a second mic for me. right. I feel like, guys, you're looking at me and you're thinking, who is this person who is bringing us closer? So on the internet, you just type policy.org, then you'll see our website. But the organization is called Policy, not policy.org. I thought I would clarify that. And why I'm bringing you closer is because I do community engagement. So I love communities. I love talking to people. But this is not my show. It's Bonita's show. My job is, so Bonita, you can take it over. And also, I'll be the person who moves the mic around so that all us experts can contribute. Hi. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're kind.
Okay. You're very much welcome to this session. My name is Bonita Nyamwire, and I work for policy in the research department. I do research policies, so it comes from poll and then use the information to change policies. So it's policy with double actions that everyone knows what social media is. Maybe we know social media is WhatsApp, is Facebook, is Twitter, but maybe we would like to look into more and understand what social media is. And so,
yeah, thank you very much. My name is Mutao Eric, the content lead at Razi. So to me, social media is different communities. This could be from content creators to developers to writers and to the different platforms are connecting them to a unified communication or goal or means of interaction. Yeah, thank you.
thank you, Eric. Somebody else wants to supplement? Yes, please.
My name is Charity. I may define social media as a channel through which people can connect, network freely without interruption, without anything. A space where someone
It's also added that facilitate the creation, the sharing of information, ideas, interests, just like our previous panelists were talking about. They kind of actually preempted our discussion. And so these include all the examples that you know: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and etc. And these, we use them on our digital devices, the smartphones, the computers, and so on and so forth. So I want us to look at, as of January 2023, the Ugandan case. We have about 2.05 million people using social media, which is about 4.5% of the total population. That is 2023 as of January. And of this population, we have 50% as females using social media. We have also have statistics of users of the different social media platforms like Facebook. We have, as of January 2023, 1.8 million using Facebook. And yeah, of these, 39.8% are female, 60.2 are male. And then Instagram, we have 447,500 users as of January 2023, which is 0.9 of the total population of Uganda, where we have 43% as females and 56.1 as male users of Instagram. Then we have Twitter at 601,000, which is 1.3 of the total population of Uganda using Twitter. As of January, we are looking at use of social media in the gig economy. And we see that the biggest population in Uganda, even Africa, is a young population. There's also a high level.
I mean play.
There's also high level of unemployment. And so we see most of the youth are now diving into use of these platforms to do short contracts. Yeah, so like I was saying, the unemployment, World Bank says 60% of the youth in Africa are jobless. That is 2022 statistics. And so the young population is largely unemployed, and that's why they are also like jumping in to do the small contracts, which we are going to look at as the gig economy. And I would like to ask another expert to also tell us about.
Thank you very much, Bonita. I'm glad to be part of this discussion. My main point of emphasis when it comes to the gig economy, especially in Uganda, social media, is the fact that a lot of what we look at it as the triangular, there's what we call the triangular flow of the gig economy. The first being we having the intermediary, that is the social media or the platform that we use to get these gigs. There's you, the worker, and then there's the person who benefits from your service. This can be a business or a person, yes? For example, we'll give, and not that I have been paid to talk about these, but there's what we have Uber, we have Safe Border, we have, all kinds of platforms that the young people are embracing. So the key aspect of the gig economy is that when it comes to the gig economy. Yes, like I've explained, it involves a Government Act that talks about the various rights and obligations that the workers have, but this is not really covered under the gig economy. The gig economy is still gray when it comes to employment. Now, social media, we use social media a lot to advertise a lot of our services, to bring out the fact that we as individuals are in this service, but are we protected when between the worker and the intermediary is usually governed by the contract describing the terms and conditions of the workers participating in this particular process. So it may involve granting the intermediary firm the right to supervise, discipline, or discharge the worker in the event that they feel that they are not part of, they don't fit the description of what the intermediary is pushing for. We have, they can actually prevent you from using this particular platform. Then it can also, the worker can also bear the risk in the event that the platform is down. They are the ones who actually bear this risk, you as the worker.
Penina talks about the contracting process in the gig economy. Most gig economy workers, they do not have contracts. Maybe if they are working on platforms like she talked about, it is just terms and conditions that they are just checking and then they go on. However, I would like to ask another expert who owns a place where there are many giggers to also tell us about what she has seen in the gig economy as the youth mostly engage with social media, but also in the gig economy. to share her experience briefly, and this is someone who works with a Design Hub. Yeah, I know that at Design Hub, it's a huge place for those who do not know Design Hub. It's located in Bugolobi, and it's a huge place where very many people gather, and they do a lot of gigs from there. Yeah, so I would like to share her experience about the giggers that gather around Design Hub. Please take it on.
Can I make a disclaimer that I really had no intention to speak? So I feel caught off guard, and I've also not had coffee yet, so my brain. Anywho, my name is Jean Maki. I'm the managing partner of now Circular Design Hub, but the world still likes us to be Design Hub Kampala. I have seen firsthand the implication of the gig economy, first to my cash flow, because if the creative does not have a gig, then they don't show up to my space. But you could also tell, I was talking to a friend at the beginning of this week, because we have a lot of freelance people. That means they're in the gig world. But my struggle with that is the quality control. And he was telling me how, he has full-time stuff only because, and I could see how that makes sense, because my pain point has been beyond my clients. It's also in my staffing, in seeing that the quality control of the gig economy also affects the return and uptake. Right? If I meet a graphic designer that has left me really bitter, I'm not sure I want to subscribe to another one yet. And I know there's platforms like Razi that are addressing that, and Wape. But the other thing is understanding, and I continue to see the challenge in understanding your rights, or like she was talking about, because it's very new, and it also came out of a place of we need to survive. It's very survivor mentality. That the transaction made between the creative that I see in my space and the project they're working on, they're not seeing the long-term aspect of it. It's, I'm on this project and I'm trying to get done. So even understanding, do you understand what the MOU is and what you are committing to? So that seeps into affecting the giga themselves, but also the quality of work along the way. And I think I'm excited that I continue to see that more and more, I work more with the creative industry, learning from bad experience, that now they're going to position themselves better. They're going to define what the contractual terms look like, or because they've had a lot of feedback. But there's still so much that could be done in that space, because we have a high turnover, and the retention rate of startups that come out of gigging really die in 6 months, because somehow they've been supported by some interesting project that came in with a few dollars, and now it's done. So the continuity of it, while it's exciting, it feeds into this economy, still leaves me with so many mixed feelings.
Thank you so much. You see, even when I caught you off guard, you still had something to say. Yeah, thank you so much, and I will still catch everyone off guard who is here, because we are all experts. We know what's going on around our country with the gig economies. So Eric from Razi also wants to supplement.
Yes, thank you once again. So personally, I believe since the past, the employment opportunities have never really been enough compared to the number of students in Africa that are graduating every year. Never been. So just because COVID brought a bigger light on the gig economy, but I think even way beyond, before COVID, people have been the gig economy, right? Have been giving it a different name, Kuiriba. Kabushenga, while he was speaking, he said, yes, do you understand? So the pros and cons, I love that COVID brought the gig economy to light, right? Because now you can kuiriba officially. You're not seen as a con person. It's like official. No, I'm in the gig economy. So Razi, we're a startup that does two things. We connect international corporations, policy, brands, and match them to tackle the unemployment issue in emerging markets by collecting them and employing freelancers. So for example, if policy wanted to collect data in South America, you'd talk to Razi to get something done. If Colgate wanted to find out how the competitors are performing, the prices of products, the number of retailers. We actually get freelancers that are on ground to do the data collection. That way, it's a win-win situation, tackling the unemployment and getting credible, granular data and information. So I'm glad that, unfortunately, COVID came, but it's a big opportunity for giggers, if that's a definition or term to use for us in getting ahead in this space, and it gives an opportunity to open up the conversation on the benefits, on the challenges, on the contracts, and the opportunity that lies ahead on officiating and aligning the goals for freelancers. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So does the connection happen on social media?
Yes, so as Razi, we have a platform where we try to mitigate the processes, but the onboarding and the marketing, the customer acquisition cost for both the clientele and the mappers. So in Razi, we call the freelancers who gather data mappers. So the marketing is predominantly done on social media, but like according to the statistics that have just been read to us right now, you will notice that internet penetration in Uganda is maybe north of 10 million. 10 to 15 million, right? But if you look at the social media is, from the statistics, less than 5 million. So the question is, how do you reach the other 10 million Ugandans who may not be on social media? So yes, we use social media and other tactics to onboard our mappers.
Thank you so much, Eric. So I think we have now, we know what we are talking about. We know how we have a clear picture of the gig economy. So I want us to quickly look at the role of social media in the gig economy and the future of work. So social media is more than connecting with lost friends. Just like Kabushenga was saying, I feel really they really talked about most of the things that we are going to be discussing here. So it's more than connecting with lost friends. So platforms have become like shared offices. I believe at Design Hub, for instance, that people are stated their money is coming on, they are sending assignments, they are branding their products, you know, they are contacting clients, they are getting feedback. Office, the way we see Design Hub, that's how now social media is. We are so many giggers on Twitter, but we are all working the beauty, and I think it is it becomes then convenient for gig economy workers that you can do so many things in a very short time. When you are just in one place, you don't have to move here and there. But we'll look at, again, the effects of such things. We will look at the other disadvantages. We will look at the ugly part or the bad part of the social media and the gig economy. So the giggers connect with clients, with employers, with customers. You know, they look at jobs. They use the social media to look at who is giving feedback, who is giving comments, who is supplementing, and then they use that information to improve their work. But also some use that information to get more clients. Who is liking their product? And then they use that information, you know, to tailor again the product to the needs of the clients. Others use it to get jobs, you know, because these are short contracts. So you have something, it's done, and then you're looking for another one and something like that. And so during my literature search, I came across something that interested me, and looking at it, reflecting at it, it looks to be true. You can also let me know your sentiments that some of these platforms, they are kind of used by certain categories of people. You'll find that there are platforms that are really flooded by the youth. Then others may be older people, like that kind of categorization. And there are reasons why that is so. So for instance, you'll find that the youth are using more of Instagram, they are using more of TikTok, they are using more of Twitter. And some of the reasons could be because some of those platforms, they take on videos. You heard Kabshenga said he doesn't do good with videos, he does with audio, so that is why he doesn't go for TikTok. And I would like to hear from anyone who is interested in sharing.
Thank you, Bonita. The contracts and how they don't reflect the work we do today. And he gave a detail of the gig economy and how it's working, and she gave some detail of how she's able to do this at Design Hub, right? Two things that happened today. When we see the gig economy, and it's coming from a perspective as a communicator, as a marketer, I'm sharing as in that train, we look at how do we then provide opportunities to the different generations and how these communications allude to the different age brackets that we talk to. And in my practice, I've worked with different people of different ages. I've worked with clients who come to you and they want to be able to talk to a 13-year-old to an 18-year-old. And then there's going to be a client whose market is totally the affluent. They are looking between 25, 26 to 35. When we look at how we tailor these communications to them and how we are able to give relevance and market value or business value to the people that we are working with in the gig economies, we try to focus on how do we then curate audiences that are fit for them. How do we be able to contribute to the narratives that they want to really build up. And before I blunt off that topic, I want us to see how then are we able to use these platforms, and alluding to what she said about contracts and how the Employment Act cannot cover that. Because I believe now when you look at such practices, you're not employing someone, you are giving them a business contract. So you're looking at discussing contracts outside the Employment Act. You're looking at more of how are you contracting with this person as per the Contract Act. I think the Contract Act of 2012, something like that. I don't remember the ages. So yeah, so we look at how do we then work with these people within existing policies that support us. And it would be key for us to always understand the difference between consultants and employees, what benefits they get. And I think that is that's well aligned, well clear in pen and ink on the contract part, especially the Employment Act. There was a discussion we had recently about taxes on influencers. Finance was telling us like we have to withhold 6.5% because these guys are delivering. And in the contracts we had signed with these influencers, we had clearly stated that we'll pay you a net of this figure. I told my financer, man, that is a figure you're going to figure out. My people expect this money. They do not want to hear this detail of a withholding tax, because they're going to tell me like, man, my contract says you're paying me this. Why are you taking a sizable chunk of my money for this, to cover this? So again, I think there's going to be, and there are platforms that are really doing good education on how do you engage with influencers, how do you engage with short-term contractors that you're bringing on board. She mentioned the quality of contracts. Most people get contracts that are very short-lived. And even when you look at the brands that do outside your innovation spaces, when you look at in the communication and marketing world, again, influencer contracts are usually short. If you have a very lengthy contract, it's going to be, say, a year or less. But again, we look at how do we then make sure that we are safeguarded as businesses, brands, and again, the people we are working with, the influencers, the people that are taking up these gigs. Yes, I beg to submit.
Thank you very much. So, because she talked about the quality of work, it is one issue that is very big about the gig economy and the work they do. And so I would like to hear from you, what more would you say about the quality of, for instance, the content you see giggers send out on social media platforms? What would you say about that quality of content? Is it worthwhile? Does it bring out the message? And also the other issue that we have with using social media platforms for the gig economy is the issue of updating the content and also updating the platform. So You'll find that some exist on the platforms, but they are really not updated. The information is not updated. So as you speak to the issue of quality, let us also look at updating the content, updating the platform. Someone here, most people tend to run to, for instance, Twitter and see, does Uber have a Twitter handle so I can lodge my complaint there? And then they post it there. Maybe you may find, I'm just using Uber as an example. It's not what they do. But you may find that maybe they last tweeted. Please, the mic? Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Agaba Nelson. I am a lawyer, and I'm the National Youth Coordinator for Alliance for National Transformation. One, you just used an example of Uber, and which also cuts across. These are services we get online. And it is also killing many businesses online. For example, you order for a car, and you see it is a UBF, Wish. And for a pickup, you know, they come to pick you up, and you're seeing if it is UAS or Z, or a Rahum US, even not well functioned, not in a mechanical condition. But we all know that Uber is an international brand, which need to be protected. Same to Safe Border and Safe Car and all other things. Even, let's say, those who do sell clothes, shoes online. You make an order of something, it's pretty, you know, well presented on the pages. Then you can't even fit, or it can't even fit. Here is what we call fit for purpose. It is not even related. So it is killing the business. It is killing that business. It is also killing the space for young people to earn, because that's the only way where young people don't pay rent. That is the only way, even where you evade tax. But also, you know, when you mentioned about the gig economy, then I remembered I'm a tax consultant as well. So there is an international, you know, whatever happens with our Uganda law, legal regime is informed by what happens at international level. There is, due to BEPS means base erosion and profit shifting by multinationals, and who have used social media to source income from countries they trade in and evade to pay tax in those countries. So they end up shifting the profit to their countries. Or, like we all pay, we give income to Netflix, we give income to Google, we give income to all those multinational companies who trade on social media and using the spaces. What will happen? Because there is action point, action one, pillar one, under the base erosion, which says alternative or on how to address the tax challenge of the digital economy. So I don't know, somebody mentioned now, they are saying they have to tax influencers, bloggers, probably how these legal regimes that may be introduced need to be to look like. Many things, if you look at on how our tax regime is shaped by such. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Nelson. And it raises a very important issue of taxation, as many people do migrate to do work on social media platforms, and that's how, and for musicians, and you know, and then there was, you know, noise, you know, coming up. So maybe in the future, we also expect there will be a tax eventually on use of social media platforms, I mean for gig economy workers, something like that. So I know URA is keenly looking into that issue, But definitely I would love to see, because as you introduce a tax, there should be a contract for someone working on the platform. There should be fair pay, there should be fair other principles, and something like that. So thank you so much, Nelson, for your submission. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. I'm Kennedy Owor.
Yes, Kennedy.
Yeah, I gain confidence when I stand, so let me stand.
Feel free.
Yeah, I'm the innovation and advocacy lead at Legal Hub Uganda, and I'm also a lawyer. I want to bring this down, basing on the things we see every day in our lives and examples we have. I'll make some comparative analysis also on my experience in other countries. Now, we have something in Uganda called Gigi. It's an app. They're agents that deal with us. And there's one important thing that comes with all this. There's one thing: trust. Trust comes when identity is secured. I need to know the person I'm dealing with. Either I've known you for a long time, or we have met and previous dealings have been good. Now, I see one thing that affects our quality assurance in everything we do is that we don't have trust. One. Two, by nature, Ugandans are poor, want to eat you once, eat big, and not retain you anymore. I met this when I'm dealing with, when I returned back from my master's, I was actually looking for a place for rent. And the best place is Gigi. When you go on Gigi, you find people that their identity are very anonymous. You don't know them. But the term down there is, you first pay before you've met them. You first pay for seeing before you've seen their house. That's it. That's the first thing they want. So you call them and say, have you deposited? This is my number, first deposit before we meet. I'll tell you where I am. And it happened that I was actually banned. I paid the person 150,000, and the phone went off. Now, this is a trick that I have because I'm more of an expert in innovations and so forth. So this is how I get people and get to know the information. If you're a strange number and I need to identify you, I first try to send you mobile money. That's when your name will come. I'll know who you are then. So when I do that, the name of the person on the phone call and the money you've sent, the number you've sent the money, does not relate with the name of the person of fraud coming in. And nobody wants to deal with a fraudster because we all don't want to suffer the losses that comes. Assume it's something to do online. So where do we see the way forward on some of these things? I want to take a very good example of how the legal profession works. In the legal profession, there's something we call holding out. It's a vice. It's not something on a number of cases when you go to court, judges are comfortable asking you, counsel, identify yourself. That means you need to show your practice certificate. That means you have the license to take that gig, but also you need to be someone who is identified to do that. Okay. So how about who we are working with? So that we have a proper feedback mechanism. I went for my exchange program in University of Oslo. That's in Norway. And I was in a room, and I think something broke from the room. I needed it to be fixed because it's a cold country and I could not get hot water. So I just simply wrote an email. I wrote an email. As long as I sent and I still got back on other things, the reply came instantly. And in no minute, there were people there to work on it. The people that actually are their agents. So the issue is that now this comes back to our personal conduct, on our characters. How good are we with communication? How fast are we at making replies to complaints that come from the people that we provide service for? If those are properly established, then we shall have fast in the gig economy, and we shall be able to leverage it well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. Eric, quickly. Yes, please go ahead, and then we'll have Eric.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abraham Banadawa, and I'm the CEO of Level Africa. And a few of us back here were discussing something that we thought needs to be discussed when you talk about the gig economy and the digital economy. And this is where the promise of the digital economy starts to break down, because there's a latent tax or penalty that if you're in the digital economy in Africa, you pay when you're trying to access foreign markets. There are very few payment processing options if you're dealing with clients, international clients. You pay higher fees than any other region in the world. And considering the fact that you might be delivering top class, even better than top class service, you end up being waylaid because it's just too difficult to work with you based on your geographical location. So I think from a policy perspective and an industry perspective, this is something that needs to be discussed, and people can mobilize behind this push, because there's no reason for PayPal Europe to have different features and different rates than PayPal Africa. And so many people are talented, but they can't fulfill the contracts that they could get, because when it comes to payment, it's a stumbling block. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submission. Eric wants to, okay. Eric has allowed you to speak before him.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Ahura Ivan, and I am from the Alliance for National Transformation. I have two things that I would wish us to put a lot of focus on as regards the gig economy and the future of work. It's a misconception, and I have also heard us here say it, that a gig economy is an economy of convenience and survival. There are a number of countries that have developed through the gig economy, and having the gig economy highly effective and highly regulated and highly organized. Because the money that these people make in the gig economy, you may not even make it in the real economy in terms of profit, because what you invest is way bigger than what this person on the gig economy invests. An example is this. There is this app called Hotel.com. You book a hotel anywhere you want to go. These people are somewhere in Europe. They will secure for you a room, but on every amount you pay for your hotel or your hotel fees, they have 10% of that amount. This person doesn't even know the price of a brick that constructed that hotel. Even doesn't know the price of a pair of bed sheets. But he's making 10% of the money from that hotel. Now, I think I had colleagues from policy and all of us here, we should put government to task to organize and see how we structure the gig economy from it being an economy of convenience. That we can even have someone who goes into that economy as his professional role. That my profession, I work with the gig economy. I have innovative work. Because another thing you face is that someone is employed or works with Design Hub today. And I am a client, I am used to this person. Since he went there for convenience and survival, the next day I go to search for that individual, that person is nowhere. And maybe he did not realize the abilities and potentials in that economy because he didn't have the environment that could favor him to do that. So all of us here, I think we should be concerned on which policies we can come up with. Employment taken away or unemployment taken away, and also people earn effectively, not for survival, but for thrival. Thank you so much.
So actually at Policy, we have a project, and I wanted to talk about this much later towards the end, but since you've talked about it, so we have a project which is called Fair Work, and it's looking at the digital economy in Uganda. It's also happening with stakeholders, especially government, bring them on board to see how we can have the digital economy organized and work effectively. There are things that people who shared have been talking about. We have captured them in our interactions and with the respondents of the different platforms that we have interacted with. And I will invite you to come to specifically you from Alliance of Transformation Network. Yes, ANT. Yes, exactly, ANT. So I will invite you to come to our stakeholders workshop where we'll be disseminating our so that we can work with you and the government to see how we can change the landscape of digital economy in Uganda. So many things that you'll be very surprised to hear, interesting things, not interesting things. So I don't want to talk about them today, but the workshop is coming up in the next few months. And all of you are invited. You can come. We shall communicate on our Twitter and other social media platforms where this will be. And please come and listen to these results. If you want to work to make the gig economy, the platform economy, what he has been talking about, so that we all can reap from it, but reap valuable things from it. We don't cheat. We don't also give our clients poor quality stuff like Council was sharing. Yes, you want to say something? Yeah. Okay, right there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Haruna Juma Zingozal, a gig economist, I must say. Yeah. No, I'm not a consultant, not there yet. So for me, I'll speak about the quality of work, like you asked. It all zeroes down to your digital footprint. As you put up these platforms, what have you been putting up? What have you been talking about? You're building a community that you see maybe potential employers, employees, or even colleagues you're willing to. For example, Danze here, I'll give an example using you. So recently, on Twitter, there is a guy, I'll not name. He said, how can I get on Next Media's influencer stuff? But then when you look at this guy's, what the guy posts and all that, so he replied something, that you alone, you post a lot of porn. We can't work with you. You get? So we forget that at one point, we are going to be gig economists. We want to jump onto that gig sometime. But then our digital footprint doesn't emulate what that employer wants, really. So that alone will kick you out. You get? So all it zeroes down to your digital footprint. Are you branding yourself the right way that your next employer would wish to work with you? Or you're just putting yourself in the bandwagon, going for TikTok to abuse people, Twitter to abuse people just because you want to build numbers and all engagement, that's all. So I think that's all.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, just want to add context. My name is Danze. I'm the head of marketing at Next Media, and I run a company that gives people in the gig economy some gigs. I have nothing against porn. But yes, thank you for referencing it. So the people that we work for, or the people that we represent as influencers, I'm an influencer myself. I am a gamer, and that's the category of influencer that I put myself into. So brands come with identity or characters, or they are human beings in themselves. And most times we are attracted to brands because they represent something that we are interested in. And as a human being on social media platforms, and like you've said, I preach it a lot, the things that we post online are going to be used against us inevitably. And because platforms like yourself, people in the marketing space are using tools, are using sophisticated technology to find out what kind of influencer you are, what have you posted before. I mean, even embassies are using it while you're applying for a visa. They get to see what things you posted the past 6 months or year. So what that means is all the things that that affect the person in the gig economy could be your digital footprint, how skilled you are, and who represents you. I'll give an example. I'll try and touch on what she said earlier, is some of the startups don't last over 6 months. When you're given a grant, for example, or funding, and you're given a boost to kick off, most times these influencers do not skill themselves or give themselves capacity in terms of financial literacy. That's one of our biggest challenges. They rarely come to these conventions to learn about how to deal with money, how to invest, how to invest in skills like client relations. It's something that they really, really don't think about, because like you've said, you're going to a gig for, say, a week, they're going to pay you 100K. Instead of waiting to do a gig that fits within your persona or your clout on the internet, to do one gig that's going to sustain you for 6 months. So those things really matter a lot. And guys, remember, all these brands are represented by agencies, and they have a persona they want. So if you're out there bashing, being abusive, or posting porn, for example, but if for example, as a client like Pornhub, I will definitely employ that person. So yeah, let's be very professional, like the lawyers are saying. Guys are talking about articles in law and all those things. If that thing is standardized, it's going to be very lucrative. Because I guarantee you, last year I made a lot of money from influencer marketing. More money than that I make at my workplace, because I decided to segment, I decided to standardize, and I decided to be very respectful to the craft of the gig economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move to the next person, I want you to also, because he talks about financial literacy, but also social media literacy. So as you use social media in the gig economy, in the platform economy, do you get any training on how to use social media? Not only the digital skills, but content curation, things he was talking about. How should you write this content? What should you post there? Please add to your submission also something about social media literacy and training.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mwende from Odipodev. I'm a journalist and a culture analyst. So first, I think it's a bit disingenuous that we are talking of a gig economy that is heavily set on digital, and then we are asking people conform back to the ways of the workplace as has been. Now, you as an employer, if you go on my Twitter and I have posted porn, cool, I am a multifaceted human. I don't only work, okay? Like outside this work I do, outside being a consultant, there are other things going on in my life. Why are you in my business like that? So I think this is also a conversation we have to learn to start pushing back and asking questions. It's not a thing one thing I actually do not advocate for is holding up respectability for the sake of getting gigs. Like, I will not come here and be another person. In fact, when I got employed with my current employer, there are certain things like, for example, if you come to our office, rather when we have meetups, and you come, you'd think it's friends hanging out. Like, no one cares how you came looking. What they care about is, Mwende, on Monday, did the report come in? Cool, we are good. And the quality of work was good. So I'm also just a bit concerned that we are pushing for a gig economy. And then we are also making people conform to what's existing. So that's one of the pushbacks I have to this conversation. The second thing I do have to add to this conversation is, imagine we have to prepare the workplace for the Gen Z. So the kind of conversations we're having here will also have to evolve. The Gen Z do not care about your company like that, okay? They are not going to tailor their entire life to become employable to your company. And as employers, we have to start thinking about it in that sense. Okay, how do we move away from what has been to accommodating the gig economy. And so this is also part of the bias we're saying, the bias inside you, according to you, who is a professional. And that's a bias you have to work. It's a you problem. That's a very you problem, and it has to be a bias you work on. Now, to respond to your question on social media literacy, I do think there is a lot of ambiguity in terms of, like, yes, we know what the applications do, but I do think there's a lot of ambiguity in the how they work, how the algorithm works, how can I mitigate some of these things. So in terms of social media literacy, I do think we kind of have a hang of just what the applications are about or social media is about, but we need to go a step deeper to starting to ask conversations for how are these things built, what data sets are being fed into these things, and like more conversations maybe around that. So yeah, that's my feedback.
Thank you very much.
Does this work? So really like your energy and your ability to push back. So some of the reality checks that I continue to see in my own life is the gig economy is highly dependent on pipeline in the professional space. And unfortunately, that's going to be a bit of a harsh reality. And I'm more interested in young people knowing where they're aligned to. Because as a free spirit, maybe, I don't know, ministry of something is not going to be the place for your gigs. They're not going to subscribe to you because they're going to dig a little bit. Maybe Design Hub could be that place because they don't care if you have dreadlocks and anklets, you can come in and work. And I find that a lot of young people especially still do not know that distinction in realizing that yes, at the end of the day though, who is the pipeline? Who is giving you the gigs? It's some old school person somewhere who still does not have your open-ended, who is sabotaging me, who does not have the enlightenment that you have. And so there's going to be a little bit of sacrifice there if you've decided that that's the direction. Because I've walked through some doors and I'm not allowed in those doors. And I either have to shrink myself to fit in those doors or decide that that's not a door that I'm going to walk into. And that's just the harsh reality of things. The second one, which kind of like went off my mind, but it's somewhere on my phone, just one moment. No, I can't remember it. And if I do, I'll make sure we have that conversation.
It's okay if it comes through.
Thank you. I want to contribute to something on literacy. This year, I think around April, we are partnering with Motive. Pulse Uganda and Motive are coming together to do classes on content and social media content and best practices for influencers. This will be sharing dates on our social media platforms. Yes, and I think the other point, I think you just shared perfectly to it. If you want to be represented by those brands, you have to match into their coffers. I'll give an example. Today, as I was coming here, as an influencer, I do influence for some brands, and we had what they call the Diageo marketing code. It had, the call had over 400 influencers from Kenya and Uganda, and they were telling us their do's and don'ts. And if you don't do any of that, if you do the things they consider don'ts, you'll never get a contract with them. If you are the person that kind of shares pornography, shares abusive content online, they would never work with you because their brands do not represent that kind of element. So at any point, you have to be intentional with the brands you want to work with. Like he said, if I want to represent URA, I'm going to look like URA. I'm going to speak tax. I'm going to speak policy around taxation. If I want to represent lifestyle and in the professional circles, I'm going to speak lifestyle like a professional. But if I'm the kind who drinks lousy, associates loosely in community, and I want to use that loosely, very loosely, before it becomes demeaning. If I am the kind of guy that publishes content that is about nudity and every bit of this, maybe there is some kind of influence I do attract, but it's not going to be at the level as Danze is going to attract. It's not going to earn me the same cash Danze is going to make out of this. So there's going to be always a difference. So at any point, you have to be intentional with what you are, because at the end of the day, you are a brand that a brand is willing to work with. Thank you.
Yeah, hi.
I think at
Over
the end,
here.
sorry, at the end of the day, it goes back to what he talked about, you know. If the gig economy if we have to reap big from it, then it has to be kind of segmented, regulated, you know, so that it works effectively and something like that. So, yes. Please.
Yes. Hi, my name is Eugene from Next Media. So it's very interesting that a lot of the conversation was rotating around when you get the gig, how do you survive after? There's an interesting experience, especially from the impact world, where the grant comes in and your lifestyle, you know, is representative of the grant. Yeah, for a period of time, and then the grant exits and the lifestyle follows suit. And at Next, we started a thing which is primarily around how do you make sure that the money that comes to you in the digital realm, in the financial services space, actually stays with you. Yeah? So it's this thing called Better Steady, Be Better, and our goal there is to just let people know that there's so many opportunities that you can actually take advantage of in that space. And one of those is financial literacy, like at least in so many different shapes and forms. Everyone has said financial literacy, financial literacy, financial literacy. And as a creative, it's too much work. I would rather create, you pay me, I go live my live my life. When the grant runs out, I suffer again. Someone said that in Uganda, tulya lumu, we eat once and die once, yeah? That perhaps there's a difference there regarding how we think about money, which means that we'll be a lot more intentional. Who is going to give me that money that I want, and what do I need to do to get there? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is what Kabushenga was talking about, being a yeast, you know. Yeah, you kuyia, you use for that moment, you go, you kuyia another thing, and you move on. The next speakers, I also want you to talk about safety and security as gigas, you know, safety and security online. Don't worry if you don't have anything to say about that, but I would like to hear something more about that too.
Good afternoon. This is Jonan. Me, I'm just a young youth ambassador under Uganda Hotels and Tourism, mostly under Uganda National Apprenticeship Program, dealing with young youth, young people, mostly 35 and below. So we are just creating a space, young space mostly, on how people can be included in the hospitality industries. So about social media, I think it's a bridge that converts us and promotes opportunities whereby all youth, mostly people with disabilities, and women are all included via social media, because the social media doesn't know that this is who. So what we do, matter of getting your data on your phone, and then you do what is available. If it's an advert, for you just to apply. So at the end of it all, you just we just give jobs. We don't know who is who. So at the end of it all, you find a person who is a beneficiary. You find is also a part of young people via social media. So social media is a good return to our economy. So another part, social media has increased opportunities for long distance businesses, which may end up increasing domestic GDP levels to our country. So an example, my friend has talked about Gigi. As you know, Gigi, so I was following it. I found some more good shoes whereby so I can buy also. So another, about for security, about security, social media, it has effects, more effects, positive and negative effects for security. So now an example, I may send there an advert which may know that is going to benefit my people. At the end of it, I may find it's affecting the government. So at the end of it, they may end up saying me now a root causer to their program. They end up now getting me for nothing. So That's what I can say at the moment. We shall add on afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to ask, by show of hands, who earns 100% of their income from the gig economy here in this conversation? That makes 4 of us. Oh, 5. Yeah, I just want to make a call. In any policy intervention, let us take into consideration the key stakeholders. I disagree with a lot of things that I've heard today, and I think it comes from a lot of misinformation, even from definition. The examples, and this can be disputed, I stand to be corrected, but even the examples that we are using, I don't think I and an Uber driver are the same. An Uber driver, as long as you are on the app, I know it was just an example, but once you're on the app, you're assured tomorrow I'm going to get customers. How many? I don't know. I'm not assured if I'm going to have another MCI, and I have to look for that. That's just something in any policy intervention that we do. Involve the key stakeholders in the conversation. And also, of course, no man is an island in the gig economy, but we need to shift from treating it as an informal economy, as an informal sector. There's a lot of money in the gig economy, and we need to invest a lot of, collaboration resources in how we manage that money. So working with the legal sector and all of that, but just those 2 things, involve us, from the beginning, and, to plan and not to be planned for, because I'm hearing a lot of planning for, and I'm seeing a lot of planning for. And with the tax issue, I would urge whoever's in charge of taxes to sort of just, think about it again. Yeah. Not that we don't want to pay taxes, but I just want to share one experience. There's this tax introduced for musicians and whatever, concerts. So we organize a small concert, and a URA official appears out of the blue on the day of the concert, counts the number of tables and says, on Monday, come to the office and I expect you to declare 6% withholding tax, 18% VAT. I'm just like, okay, you don't know how much we have made, you don't know how many service providers have come. So we need to pay taxes if we are contributing to the economy. But how they're introducing that concept is they need to rethink that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. I believe that everyone who is in this room, where they come from, we will work with the people involved in the gig economy definitely to scale up the economy, to make it better. We use, I know the people in this room, we use the human-centered design model to approach things, to change policies. But there are other people who are not in this room that you also know who use their kind of model that I do not want to talk about. Thank you very much for that submission. I would like him to go next, but also I would like Honorable Winnie Kisa, I am going to ask you to say something about women involvement and participation in the gig economy. If you can say something, because he talked about a vulnerable population and the women, he talked about people with special needs and women. If you can say something about women in the gig economy, I just have a few minutes, so I'll let you go, then him, then Honorable.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Joshua Caleb. So I'd like to have a conversation on the intersection of what does work look like in the future, but also there's the aspect of social media / technology. When you look at the gig economy, that means that we shall hire someone who knows how to do something for the very first time. Then if we have advanced technology, we shall have AI learn how they do it, so that in the long term, we don't have to hire them, right? Then, ideally, technology. So when we look at what work will ideally look like in the future, 10 years from now, won't most of the people in the gig economy be unemployed? Because, and apart from just people in the gig economy, basically any trade, when we have technology / social media incorporated, meaning if I only call you when I need a product, and then you deliver that product. Yes, the quality might be good, but if I find a way of cutting the corners and have something else do for me that work, I'm cutting you out of the equation. So, is there any way we can have policy that sort of measures or tells how much of technology we can have in the different fields? That, you know what, if you want someone in the photo business or in the creative world, a singer, this percentage has to be done by human. Then maybe after we can incorporate technology. I don't know what policy would look like in that aspect. But if we're looking at the future of work and the gig economy, coupled with technology, we might not have work for actual human beings. Instead, the people who will have work are people who are creating algorithms, people who have, who basically go and behind their computers and replicate what you, a human who took lots of time to learn and craft and master, then they'll be able to replicate that and leave you out with it, without a job. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Thank you very much. He talks about very important things, and I know the policymakers in this room, they have taken note because I said, and you all know that the biggest population we have in Uganda, I believe you're still in the 20s, you know. Yes, he agrees. They are somewhere there, yes. So the Gen Zs. So, and he raises a very good point, because where we are going, because with AI, you may find some people are not employed, you know, so they have to compete with the machines and something like that. So the policymakers have taken note. Let me have him speak, and then I'll go to Honorable.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Shedrick Aebale. I have a I can call it a concern, a query, or a disturbance. Well, in Uganda, when you look at most companies that begin, a case in point, you look at SafeBoda or Uber. When they are starting their operational business in Uganda, most of their employees follow the guidelines of the companies. For example, SafeBoda. They can look at the hygiene, the helmet, the nets, whatsoever, all can be in check. 3 years down the road, this becomes what? A history. A SafeBoda comes to pick you up, he doesn't have your helmet. If he has your helmet, he doesn't have the hairnet. And then if he doesn't have any of that, maybe you request, he calls you, is it a cashless ride or a cash ride? You tell him it's cashless, he cancels. Now my question is, how can we put in place policies that can be fully followed, day in, day out, no matter how long the companies last in a country? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, it goes back to the policies that we need to have in place to regulate. And I have seen some of the comments that he has given on social media platforms about Uber, about most ride-hailing platforms, you know, the cashless things. The cars are dirty, they are not clean. The riders negotiating, you know, off the app, that's a very big issue. I have seen that whole feedback. So again, it goes back to the conversation of policy making to change this whole landscape.
Thank you so much. I, first of all, would like to say I came here as a student to learn, because where I come from, in the political world, and as a woman, we know that very few of the women know how to use social media. And yet, as women in politics, we have been crying out that one of the reasons why many of the women are not into politics is because of the commercialization of politics. Now, to me, I look at social media being the answer to some of those issues. In using social media, women reach out, and actually persons with a disability, they reach out to many people that they wouldn't have otherwise reached out to using the little resources that they have. And so to me, I believe social media is the way to go. When it comes to the gig economy, we the women should be the first people to actually talk about social media and hyping it most. Because through this, like my sister was telling me, she does Uber at some points, we get jobs without necessarily meeting bosses who we fear at times ask for sakes to give girls jobs. So in this, you will get your job without anybody interacting with you, asking for anything that otherwise would have put you off and making you not get qualified for the job in the sense of qualification. Because there are so many parameters that job givers may be attached to this woman when she's going to ask for a job. So to me, at a policy level possibly, we would say that there is need for streamlining the gig economy so that everybody benefits from it. Yes, we are saying in a way we don't pay taxes as people in the gig economy, but there are those who are giving gigs and are paying taxes before they even give you a gig. For example, if it's a real organization, before an organization gives you a gig, the tax component is on it. So in one way or the other, there is tax attached to a gig, and in a way, people are paying taxes. So the only gigs are part of the contributors to the economy. And so maybe using this space, we would want to now be part of this that can push this conversation further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Winnie Kiza. And my time, unfortunately, is done. My bosses are here. They are saying, no time, no time, no time, Bonita. So I know this is a very beautiful conversation that we can keep on until the cows come back home. I don't have cows. Nicholas also doesn't have them. So let's end the conversation here. Thank you for your submission. This has been very beautiful hearing from you, learning from you. We all were learning. It was a learning experience. I will invite you to follow us on our Twitter handle on at policy.org. We will be sharing when we'll have the dissemination workshop for our Fair Work project. Please come on. Let's change the landscape of the digital economy in Uganda so that we can all benefit from it. Thank you very much for listening to everyone. Thank you for participating, and a very good afternoon to you all.
Thank you, Bonita. I'll now hand you over to the event host.
Thank you so much, Bonita. Thank you so much for this amazing and wonderful session. So we have a grab and go lunch pack in case you are hungry and need something to eat. There are stations everywhere, so if you need something to eat, someone can actually offer you that. Also, these sessions are in rotation, so if you're done here, there's also another session that side, but it's ending. So we have a second workshop that is happening starting now, but also you're still experts and your expertise is still needed, so you're still going to be around to attend the next expert roundtable discussion. But in case you don't want to be here, there's another workshop in the other training room. So I'll just read for you what those sessions are all about. So the one that's going to be happening here, the second expert roundtable discussion, is going to be about open government and declining institutional trust. Can social media fix the gap? That is going to be the session happening in here. But in case you can't attend the one in here, the workshop in the next room is going to be about building social movements and connected communities for social impact. And that conversation is in cooperation with the Global Shapers. And it's called Building Social Movements and Connecting Communities for Social Impact. That conversation is going to be with 4040 as well as Global Shapers. And your facilitators are Esther Kalenzi of 40 Days Over 40 Smiles and Rebecca Karaga, who is from Global Shapers Kampala Hub. If you're staying here for the session that's going to be happening here on the expert roundtable discussion 2, you will be having a conversation. Earlier, we have a grab and discussions, yes? The session on open government and declining institutional trust is going to be happening here and moderated by Ewa. or by Nicholas, sorry. Just a few pointers. Please move with your bag. Move around with your bag. Don't leave your bag behind. Also, the bathrooms are just through that door over there at the back. You just get out and take your right. Yes. Then a special shout out to Open Signs Media, who are helping us partner KQ, that is Creative Arts, and they have generated AI content that is just outside in the corridors. You'll see their art and their pictures on the walls outside. Yes, we have interviews happening. If you want to contribute to this conversation online, where people can actually get to see you, you can pass by and get to answer a few questions. Like I said, these sessions are in rotation, so you are free to move within, stay here, or go to the next room, yeah? And if you're staying here, please keep a closed circle so that there are no empty chairs or seats. Once again, carry your bag around with you. Stay safe. Have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you. So, Sakwang, I'm a program manager of Trust. Can social media fix the gap? We might have to give it about 5 or 10 minutes for people to walk in, the ones that have gone to. This is a very passionate topic that I hold dearly. So, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in the public sector working in the Ministry of ICT and closely shaping the open government agenda. And I'm proud to be back here today to share some of these lessons that I had in the public sector, but also to tap into the knowledge or experiences that you've had as emerging leaders in the public sector. I might want to ask for those of you that are seated behind to move closer so we can let the people having bites or a break to join us from behind so we can fill the seats in front. Thank you. I'll be having this session in conversation with Juliet Luede from Policy. Good, I think we have quorum. We will start this session and then let other people join us as we start. So when we talk about open government, the first thing that comes in our mind is open. What does open mean to us? Open means access. You're able to access something and you're able to take an active role in shaping whatever it is that you access. So open government is about openness. And the other values that are closely associated with open government is transparency, participation, accountability. Any other value that I might have missed out?
We love intimate. I don't know if you guys love intimate. I feel like there's something about intimate conversations. No, so that deal is, because we are intimate, we can watch each other eat. Imagine your neighbor chewing in your face and you're like, can I share some of your food with you? So that's how intimate we are getting with this conversation. So if we could move in a little bit closer to be more intimate with each other, that would be super great.
Good. Thank you, Julie.
Nicholas had posed a question again on what does open government really, when you hear that word, what comes to mind?
So here, essentially, we are looking at what constitutes open government, who is it made for? Because in many cases, when leaders talk about governance, it's more or less like an abstract concept. So many times we miss the middle line, and that's who open government is designed to serve, the citizen. So we're looking into some of the key things that make up open government and some of the key strategies in which we can make open government work. So you will realize about 2 years ago, since the advent of the pandemic, you had COVID. It broke out. And in many ways, everyone can attest to the fact that this amplified the needs that citizens had for their governments. So we had conversations coming up. What services do we need? How do we access them during the pandemic? So you can see already that the COVID pandemic forced a hard reset for many governments. So some people were fully equipped. They had the infrastructure, which is the digital infrastructure on which open government works. Some governments were caught off guard And you can see that citizens found it hard accessing services. And some of these challenges continued even after the pandemic came out of sight. So today we'll be looking into some of the challenges that open government faces, but also how we can address some of these obstacles from a policy perspective. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts or your perspectives on how we can address some of the bottlenecks that open government faces.
Maybe Nicholas, the gentleman over there had a contribution, what his understanding of open governments is. So.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Open government to me.
I don't know if you want to take your mask off and we hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I recall I was somewhere part of a discussion on, I think this conversation is very timely because if you're going to talk about ICT, that means service delivery to me. And I think the pandemic, as you just mentioned, it just pushed us to first realize that we need, interventions. So, okay, that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution.
Nicholas, the lady here has a contribution as well.
Good.
For me, I think when I think open government, I think of it in 3 ways. First is engagement, like open engagement. That's from government to citizens, which would include civic education and whatnot. I think of it in terms of transparency, so open access to data and the use of data and how it's been utilized. And lastly, I do think about it in terms of collaboration, a government that's open to partnering with the people who know or citizens and addressing, like just collaborating with people in that sense. So yeah.
Thank you, Mwende. I have another question just to follow up with what you've mentioned in how people can use data to improve service delivery. You work at the intersection of data, and I would like to know some of the experiences, especially coming from Kenya, in some of the most creative ways or that government is deploying data to improve citizens' engagement, but also access to service delivery. What are some of the initiatives that have worked in Kenya? Like, for instance, I heard about the Huduma.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a bit contentious. We'll delve a bit more into it in terms of the bias. But I do think Huduma number, so what happens is they try to consolidate all our data into one for you to be able to access all government services from one point. We're using just one number. Well, that has failed. But what has worked has been, and they've used like data to make sure they're able to like allocate, money to people with M-Pesa to facilitate what we're calling the Hustler Fund, which is basically what's funding the nation at the moment. Maybe lastly would be on the health sector. I do think that we have, especially in terms of vaccinations, so Kenya very well. So I do think in that space there are ways they're kind of getting it right, but again, contentious because of, one, the things they're using now, the AI they're using was, what does that mean for Kenyans who are accessing the Hustler Fund right now? So yeah.
Thank you. We have more questions behind.
Maybe as you actually respond and also given terms of actually open government and then the declining institutional trust, is the Hustler Fund is there, Kenyans are now utilizing it, but can we trust?
We'll cover that. I first need to go down and give a brief understanding of what the open government is talking about. I'll break into 3 aspects. One, the beginning word is openness. It's open platform. In a way that there's a platform, it has access for anybody. 2, on aspects of policies and practice. And we see the policies and practice are discrimination and so forth. And the end goal of that is that we shall see that all those policies we're going to make shall foster, 1, rule of law. It will foster democracy in a way that the will of the people is put into account and remains the paramount goal. Then lastly, we shall see inclusive growth. The policy itself, the end result of the policy, we should be able to see inclusive growth in a way that no one is left behind. The marginalized groups of persons and the vulnerable groups are put at the core so that they're empowered and they be able to grow with such policies and practices that come in place. Now, responding to the question that she asked, like for the Kenyan thing on the fund, I think such platforms can only be trusted. I'm not saying it's trusted. Can only be trusted if some of those indicators are in place and are fully implemented, and the people see the benefit of it. It's conflicting with a lot of things. One, it's conflicting with the, Museveni says, Bona what? Bona Basome. What is it for the UPE, that's for primary education, and USE. Now, that's another platform, conflicting with another platform. And the government says education is free for all. And then again, you're conflicting yourself by putting a student loan. The student loan itself conflicts with the state of scholarship, which many of us question how they got, whether they are merit-based or so forth. So I think if I hear somebody has got a state of scholarship, I would question, how did you get it? It's on a political ground. One. Two, you must come from the other side where we all know. I want to be very open of that. Two, that now I've given two. Three, yeah, it depends on the technical know-how. And then the worst of all is the highest level of what I call insult and exclusion. The phrase scientist. You must be a scientist to get it. So that means if you're not a scientist, you're useless. I betrayed science. I was once a scientist. I betrayed it. I will not regret. I will survive without being favored. Then, you see all those conflicting with students' loan and a lot of things. I think any person who is reasonable will not trust the existence of such platforms because I think they're mad with I can call it
Thank you, Kennedy.
malice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You raise a very important issue, especially on policy, because policy is supposed to be the thing that oils the agenda, the open government that we're trying to talk about. And in Uganda, Article 41 gives citizens the right to access information. So this is the basis of open government in this country. But currently, you know that this is still a rocky road ahead for people to have in regards to access to information, because this is the lifeblood of a thriving democracy. If you don't have access to information on social media, but also through digital platforms, the way you govern and the way you contribute or participate in governance is hampered or affected. So I would like to hear your views on this. I see a hand up. Mark?
Yes, how are you? My name is Mark Kawanguzi. I'm in respect, not to hold it at gunpoint, but our government is continuously stepping on our rights, especially in that area, in regards to access to information. Every time there is an election, we know the internet is going to go off. We shall not know what information is coming from the polling stations. The ballot papers arrived in time as they're supposed to. People being allowed to vote or they are being shot at. Yeah? So I think that can be a starting point for us.
What happened online reflect what happens offline. Maybe that's something we can also chew on. When we are thinking online, my mother is not on social media. Her realities and mine are different. Does what happened online reflect what happens offline?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to open governance, then connecting it back. To me, I think open governance would have been like democracy. In terms of democracy, where we have freedom of expression, where the medias are coming to express each and everything in terms of when the media are free and independent to express each and everything they like. But if at all we reflect it back during elections, we cannot say we have full open governance. Because all of us here, we know what usually happens when we're in elections, where social medias, televisions, We see how sometimes NBS, how it is, what is showing, it's not what is reflecting somewhere, maybe on NTV. So that controversy, at the end of the day, can we really say that there is open governance? And also the policies, if we come about the policies, yes, if we look at the rule of law, because what the Constitution says is not what being done. You've talked about the attitude.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I like that you mentioned the issue of the Constitution and tying it to policy. We have an MP in the House. He's right here with us, and I'll be very interested in hearing what it is that they're working on the floor of Parliament to make sure that they're improving access to information, but also improving the way the government engages with citizens. This is an open-ended question, so every expert is invited to contribute to it.
Thank you, Nicholas. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like also to contribute to the theme that we are trying to discuss about open governance. When we speak of open government, what comes in everyone's mind is the freedom to express themselves, freedom to access any information when it is needed, freedom to participate in everything that they desire, as long as it is not against the law or it is not offending anyone's right. What a situation in our country. My brother, I cited out the election in regard to democracy. We have a situation in an election period whereby one person can come out to petition the Electoral Commission to bring out academic documents of one candidate running for presidency, and they are delivered within 2 days. Then another person comes out academic qualifications. We don't know if we have the right person having the right credentials to take over this country. But that is still there and lacking. We reach in a situation, you know, this election, the previous election, was dominated by the young generation. And one way they could tap or stop the greed and the yearning for power amongst the youth is to cut communication. And if you cut communication, it means that I cannot speak to someone from Isingiro. I could not talk to someone from Gulu. I could not speak to someone in Kampala. Meaning I had to concentrate within my geographical outreach, Kasanda, and I had to be there, where I could even reach by foot, because even the phone networks were off. But we are in an election that is deciding on who is to take the future of our country, whereby everyone would like to hear what is Busoga saying, what is Gulu saying, what is Arua saying. But if you keep us off the internet, we cannot access the results to do the national notary, because it is also our right. You have to access that information, but you have cut us off. We cannot access the DR forms from the different regions because everyone in their region wanted to try and to is right with what the people have tried for themselves. But that chance was denied, and we accepted that. Then there is freedom of press. We went into a scientific election whereby we had to express ourselves on social media. But we could not access some media houses because the audience it could attract to, and all the programs were bought off by the government. You have no hours. They can only reserve for you maybe at around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. So you wonder and you ask yourself, which audience will I be speaking to? Which audience would I be communicating to? Which people will listen to me at 3 a.m.? Yet in the morning, we have to be in the field. So when all that is lacking in a country, there is no way we can tell the public that, oh, you know, we have an open government, you can come, ask, get access to any information. When we talk about the gap or the institutional breakdown and how social media can help to bridge that gap, a lot has been exposed. The rot in everyone's life has been exposed on social media. We have had the scandals in NSSF, whereby the board chairperson can even ask for 33 billion as their bonus from the savers' money. The minister asks for 6, is facilitated with the budget we pass in parliament, but they go ahead to ask on the fund, they have to follow and see how best can be implemented or be put to investment. We have had issues of the iron sheets. I cannot go without talking about this. The iron sheets. Right now, ministers have come out and bought iron sheets to pay back. But if you want to put that openness in the public, we need action. We need to see those ministers censured and declined from the government, from the top leadership. Because at the cost of them building for their cattle or animal, there is a life being lost in Karamoja of a person who was supposed to benefit from those iron sheets.
Thank you, Honorable. And you make very interesting points for discussion. So one of the things that I would like to really put and ponder for thought is there's been a deliberate attempt to drive the open government agenda for Uganda. It's not cast in stone yet. It's in the Constitution, but to bring it home. So what's needed to drive and put the impetus into the legislation that's needed? One, to articulate the government's open government initiative, but also in terms of social media. How are public officials communicating with citizens to drive or bridge this gap that's still existing and widening each and every day?
Nicholas, you know, if you have a home and you are the father, for you to get trust from your children, you don't have to remind them that I'm your father. But whatever you do builds the bond between you and your children. If we still have someone who will never build a bond within the leadership or the top leadership and the citizens, we might be, or we might never see that open government. We have good and clear policies. We have laws that are well stipulated. But if you cannot put them into exercise where you have interest, then it ceases to be open to everyone. And you will never tell anyone that you are open to this. We want to see leaders who will come out without favor. If you, I think for the laws we have in Uganda, Corruption Act, the head of state can come out and be like, you know, you stop talking about the corrupt officials. You force them to invest in foreign countries, yet for now they are still investing in our country.
Good. Thank you, Honorable. So when we're talking about open government, so everything that's happening in the digital community, the digital constituency, the opinions being shaped by citizens, the views that are being shared by public officials, how is this translating into local communities, and how do we make sure that the outcomes online continue to be felt offline? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. We had some hands up.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, my name is Ahura Ivan, and I am from Alliance for National Transformation. The truth is, where we are right now, social media can effectively close the gap of open governance and institutions' trust. But unfortunately, that can only thrive in a state that has a functional democracy. Because this government, it's amazing that it knows the importance of social media. Last year, even when Facebook was closed, they collected 700 million as taxes from it, even when it was closed. Now the question is, what if it wasn't closed? Now why did I say that open governance and institutions trust with social media closing the gap can only thrive when democracy is functional? Democracy gives a country an opportunity to have a leader who is not surviving or who is not in a leadership position because he has mercy for the people he's leading. What we see today in Uganda, we are in a country, and I will interest all of us to read a book called Why Nations Fail, written by James Robinson. He says that when you have a leader who thinks that he's being in power, he's doing a country a favor, then that country will never thrive. So here in Uganda, it's like whatever they do at our mercy. When they open Facebook, they open it at our mercy. When we are on Twitter, we even have people who have to request that, please, Mr. President, we request you to open Facebook to do this and that and this and that. Since you are on that position because of the mercy of the people you lead, they will have you accountable for it. Now, unfortunately, in the current situation of Uganda, social media has made us lazy revolutionists. We can wake up in our beds, sit on our comfortable couches, and make a tweet. Then after the tweet, we go into sleeping. When it's time for action, we cannot be seen anywhere. But unfortunately, we go behind and blame those who have offered themselves to do the action. And we blame them on social media, yet they are out there trying to give solutions, practical ones, because the truth is, in the first session, we are told that social media is just a tool. It may not be the full-term solution, but we can use that tool to supplement the other actions that we might have. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your contribution. 2 days ago, my country director shared an interesting tweet. She was just talking about how we can always stand up and make it count whenever we are needed, and to do something that you've seen. And this can pertain like social injustices that you've seen in your community on social media. Many times when people talk about open government, the whole burden falls on the government, but we forget that it's a social contract. So we need to draw a balance between the citizen and the state. What is your role as a citizen online, on social media, and outside of that? What are you doing to contribute to governance, but to also improve the state of the community in which you find yourself in? What is your role? I'm happy to take hands.
There's a gentleman with a mic, and
I
then...
would appreciate to have more ladies, but I'll take the back. Yes, Mr. Gunyu.
To comment on the issue of the issue just touched on, where as citizens we have given up. We expect we as citizens just tweet and then start to lament. There is a law on access to information, but how many citizens actually take the trouble to go to your local government to try and find out what the budget for your sub-county is, for your division is, you know, how much money did the government transfer to your district, to your city council, you know. I want to believe that the government tries to be open to some extent, because whenever the Auditor General, for example, publishes the audit report, that's an attempt to provide information about how government agencies have performed. But how many citizens read that audit report, apart from the members of parliament at committee level who are probably scrutinizing that report? But we as citizens, what do we know about that? The last one is that there is a tendency to usually pile the blame on politicians on issues of corruption, like the OPM saga. But there are technical staff in all these ministries who actually handle the resources. They directly get involved in, you know, spending this money, procuring, and all of that. But you quite often hear people say the minister should resign, but then there is the technocrat, the permanent secretary, and that whole group that procured the iron sheets and actually distributed to the different individuals. At what point do we hold them accountable? Do we just look at the politicians, but what about the technical staff? So I would like to hear maybe from the Honorable more how that could be handled. Thank you.
Yeah, more hands. I'll take more hands in the back. I would like more ladies to, okay. Pass the mic to him. As the mic gets to you, I'll still add to what Mr. Gunyu just mentioned. What are some of the challenges that, as a governance actor, for instance, when you approach these public officers in accessing this information, what happens in between? What are some of the challenges, the bottlenecks you face in doing that? Yes.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Derek. I would like to supplement on what he said. Second, first of all, us, we may not be interested in what the government is bringing to us. A gentleman out there talked about the loan scheme and set house scheme for education. Few of us apply for those, and then the people who apply for those are maybe the Westerners, are the people who will get the scholarship because they apply for them. Now, for us who don't apply for them, we shall keep on blaming and being sectarians, blaming the government on just improving one side of the region. So I think we have to first look at ourselves and also take accountable of whatever the government does. Thank you.
I have a hand.
I'm a woman, so I was allowed immediately. Okay. I believe we need to be very honest with ourselves. What is the objective of open government? To be an open government. Now, how good are the chances that right now the political elite wants to be open, wants to be transparent, wants to serve the needs and the interests of the citizens? There is an incredible, as I find, a very good platform where you can, for example, apply for visa to come to Uganda. So all of it is very inviting, and it's very simple to apply for a visa online and to come to Uganda. It's great. It's welcoming people. Now, when Ugandans look for certain services, they will not have these nice platforms, maybe. So there is also an objective behind it, and it's thinking behind how open, how transparent, how serving do I want to be as public sector, as institutions. I like that somebody has mentioned the political will and the responsibility, because one can expect a lot always maybe from the national level, but then one can be very disappointed. I believe that it should start with the local level and with the regional level, where people really try and implement these tools of open government. Good if those people in these rooms, young people, go out and support their communities in establishing these platforms where, you know, the local officials are open to do it. They would welcome it because it would be help. But they are also left on their own because they are not skilled. They're not that digital natives as people here in the room. So, and this is transparent for their own people. Let's try out this, because at the end, it will lead to good examples at the local level. People will see what they have as a service. They will enjoy it. They will vote for you at the end if you opened opportunities for them. And by doing so, from the local, very local level, you build up also the resilience of the entire state by starting building the resilience of the communities. So this is my take on open government.
Thank you, Anna. And I'll interest you in sharing more about the German perspective on how open government works in Germany and what that fosters participatory democracy. Everyone is supposed to be involved without being discriminated, and people are supposed to be included in this policy process, in these decision-making processes, even to the most minute level in the grassroots. But this is not the reality. And so one of the things I'm asking you today is, one, to share with me some of the challenges that people have in access
should whisper until the last person, the meanings will change. The last person will say minutes. That affects the quality of information we receive. Then my biggest take home for everyone, which is my panel for every world solution, is the human rights-based approach. I leave you with the word panel. Panel stands for participation, accountability, non-discrimination, equality, and legality. You can never go wrong with that.
Thank you, Kennedy. We have more hands behind. 1 minute. Your microphone is not on. Do you want mine? I see the event host is coming closer, which means we're not making good use of our time.
I'm one information worker. A lot has been said, but allow me to request the public, the social media players, that before we embrace the social media, let's first work on the missing link. The missing link could be the digital divide. And besides, I advocate for a hybrid kind of information search. In case social media is off, whatever it is, let's physically walk there and go through the confidentiality requirements of information access, creation, confidentiality, and distribution. We shall get it what we want. And I don't think when you get through all that, still you'll be denied information. If you're denied information, take it up as being denied information after fulfilling all what it requires for me to get this information. That is my uptake on that. On another note, we have gotten attacked. Someone called it was it a bad selfie? Something selfie, which is not right.
That was the poem.
Yes. From that poem, it shows that we have embraced the social media. Before we are prepared for it, we want to get what is there then. But remember, before it is there, you have to certify the requirements of how to get there. Some information you have to subscribe. Some information you have to pay for it. Some information you have to incur so many taxes so that you get
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
Later, we will be having one of the last workshops where we shall be talking about the ethics of how you share this information. Remember, you have to stay conscious of what you say, how and when. So this has to be in the back of our minds. One last parting shot before we close. You. I missed out giving you.
I'll be very quick. My
Thank
name
you.
is Ben from the MSME Garage. I just simply wanted to say that I think open governance is incumbent upon transparent elections. And we need electoral reforms. The reason why there are usually two reactions that I elicited. The first one is people join opposition, which is the most contemporary one. But the alternative is that people get disinterested in the government that has taken away their will of choice of government. And if people are uninterested about what the government...
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this expert roundtable. We'll be getting into the next item on the agenda, and I'll hand you over to the event host to take us through the next program.
A very amazing conversation, as always. It's very amazing on social media to just see people convene and, be passionate about this. So we're waiting for the other team to join us, but we won't wait for long because we have to get onto our second plenary discussion. See any person holding some lunch, please get yourself a box. And also, please don't leave your bags behind in case you're moving out, going to the bathrooms or anywhere else. They might not be safe. The bathroom, like I said earlier, is through that back door over there. You'll take your right and you will see where the bathrooms are. A special shout out and thank you so much to Open Science Media for interpreting for us. And also, you can hire them to interpret at your events in case you have that gap in your work area or your workspace. We also have KQ, Creative Arts and Culture, that have been able to bring out that beautiful exhibition of art outside. In case you haven't seen it yet, please pass by, look at it, admire it, take it in, breathe it in. Yes, let's support African AI enthusiasts, yes? So this next plenary session is going to be about, give me a minute. It's going to be about fighting AI bias and data colonialism on social media. Again, it's fighting AI bias and data colonialism on social media. It's going to be right here, so we're just waiting for the other team to join us again. We have one more breakout session in the format that we had earlier on, the format of an expert roundtable here and the workshop out back, yeah? So you'll colonialism on social media. It's going to be moderated by Shem Opolot. He's a data scientist. Then we'll have a panel discussion. So yeah, that's it. But let me round up some people so that we can start shortly on the panel discussion.
Mm-hmm.